Hi, I'm Kristen, and today I am testing out foundation paper piecing paper. So I have bought a whole bunch of different kinds, and I'm gonna make it noisy if I rattle and show you them all, but there's seven different kinds of, just putting it down, 7 different kinds of foundation paper piecing paper to test. I've been wanting to do this video for a while. I have been using, really, since I started with foundation paper piecing, just regular printer paper. But I've seen all these other papers on the market, so I'm like, well, there must be something in that. I have tried a couple and used them, but I haven't tried all of these. So I've been kind of building up my stash of foundation paper piecing papers to see what I'm gonna like. And I was meaning to do this video for quite a while. And then I was on Sean's channel. His channel's called The Guy Who Sews, and we were having a chat, and this came up, and he said, oh, you should do a video about it. And I was like, yeah, I know I'm going to, but obviously I hadn't. So anyway, that prompted me to do it. So this is that video. So thanks, Sean, for the prompt. And so I'm gonna go through, first of all, my criteria. So what I'm looking for from foundation FPP paper, foundation paper piecing paper. It's a mouthful. Because it might be different to what you're looking for from it, right? First of all, and then I'm going to show you my experiment. So you might have different criteria, and so the things I don't like or I like about it, you might be like, well, that doesn't apply to me. But hopefully it'll help just to see the different types of paper and how they behave on the same block. So I'm just going to take a simple block and do it for all 7 types of paper. So first of all, my criteria. So I don't trace foundation paper piecing patterns from books or anything like that. I print them. So I either design it myself on a software called EQ8, Electric Quilt 8, or I purchase it from someone, maybe on Etsy, and I've got a PDF pattern, so it's on my computer or whatever. So I print it. So I'm looking for something that can go through my home printer. I have a mono laser printer. I don't have an inkjet. I don't think that made any difference for any of the papers because they all said you could use either. But so I need to be able to print it. So that's number 1. Number 2, I'd obviously like to be able to see through it. You can't really see through printer paper too well, and that's for like lining up where the pieces of fabric go, where your 1/4-inch seam is. You'll see all that. So it's not a deal breaker because I've been going along without that for a while. But if I could find a paper that behaved the way I wanted it to and I could see through it, that would sway me over. So I'd like to be able to see through it. Obviously, I want to be able to sew on it well. I want it to be not too difficult to take off, right? And then I don't want it to cost too much. So I think that's all the criteria. Okay, I thought up a few more, so I'm putting them up on the screen. Most of these you've already seen. But can I press on it? That one is key for me, and I'll show you why later. And then how accurate does the block turn out? So that's another one. That's mainly what I want from my foundation paper piecing paper. So, okay, let's get to the experiments. So here are the papers I'm going to try out. So first of all, the one I've been using most frequently, regular printer paper. Just normal paper. Then I've got freezer paper. Can't remember exactly where I bought that one, but it's the same. This is printed to like printer size, but you could also cut just regular freezer paper that you buy, for the kitchen into sheets for your printer as well. That's 2. This doesn't have any proper packaging, but it's vellum paper. So that's the next one. June Tailor's Perfect Piecing Foundation Sheets. Tracing paper. This one, I'm not sure whether it's going to go through the printer, but we're going to try it. Papers for foundation piecing from the Patchwork place. I will try and find links for everything. I can't even remember when I bought this. But anyways, I'll try and find links for everything. And then the last one is newsprint paper, which is also A4. So let's get to it. Okay, so first up, we're just printing with regular printer paper. So there's that. 6-inch block, regular printer paper. Okay, next one is the Vellum paper. So that one, I don't think it matters which side it prints on, so we'll just do that. There we go. You can already see it's much more see-through than the printer paper. Okay, next is the freezer paper. Now, on my printer, you need to put it like the bit you're going to print on face up, but obviously your printer might be different. So check that because there's two sides. There's the shiny side and the matte side. You want to print on the matte side. Okay, so that is the freezer paper printed on the matte side and the shiny side. It's left like that. Okay, next is the Tailor Perfect Piecing. This is quite a bit thinner kind of a paper. Doesn't look like it matters what side. So let's see how this prints. Feels like it's a little bit wider than my printing tray. Hang on. I've left some regular printer paper in just because it tends to feed better when there's something in it. But, let's see. All right, I'm gonna give that a go. It feels like it's a bit wide and I should trim it, but I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so even though it felt a bit wide for my printer, printed fine. And it might be that that's, I don't know, more of an American sizing. I feel like our standard piece of paper is gonna be the same size, but maybe not. I don't know. Okay, next one is this one. And it's a bit thicker than the Tailor stuff. Okay, printed fine. Okay, next is a newsprint. Ooh, that's not good. Something's happened there. It got stuck somewhere. So that didn't work so well. I might try it again. Let's see. Okay. No. Okay. So my printer doesn't like the newsprint. Clearly. Oh, right. Oh, great. There we go. Okay, so we're not going any further with the newsprint because I don't want to deal with this. I'm going to try the tracing paper, but I imagine it's going to be similar because it's even thinner than this. But anyway, okay. Okay, so that's the tracing paper going in. It's got ink all over from the newsprint. Yeah. That was a bad idea, guys. Okay. Right. Right. So that's happened with the tracing paper. I mean, probably you guys were yelling at the screen going, why on earth would you try and put tracing paper in your printer? But anyway, I wanted to see. So now it's really messed up in there. Right. I'll get some tweezers and get that out off camera. You don't need to see me fixing my printer. So I think the newsprint and the tracing paper have failed at the first hurdle. So they didn't get printed. And I'm not going to actually sit there tracing. Maybe they're useful for that, but that's a different thing to what I'm looking for right now. So, okay. Okay, so that's the printing test done. These two, I think, are out of the race because I couldn't get them to the printer. So my sons really like to do sort of knockout tournaments with their monster truck toys. So they would put these two in the losers pile, I think. And then we would move on to the next round with the other contenders. So here's what we've got. We've got printer paper, vellum paper, freezer paper, June Tailor paper, and Patchwork Palace paper. So I am going to cut these all out. So whatever foundation paper piecing pattern you use, they would usually print your 1/4 inch seam. If they don't, then check the instructions. But if they do, then you're going to cut along this outside line because you're going to keep your 1/4 inch seam on there. So I'm going to cut all these out and I'm going to sort of tag which paper it is to it so that I don't get mixed up. And then we'll get to sewing on them. Okay, so I'm going to start with the printer paper. And hopefully you do know how to foundation paper piece. I will link to some of my other videos below, some of which are really for beginners. But just briefly, your pattern's usually numbered, either 1, 2, 3, or A1 or ABC, and you start with the first two to join your first pieces, right? So I picked out 2 fabrics. I haven't measured to see whether or not I can make all the blocks out of the same one, so we'll see. You know, I'm not a planner or a measurer in general. Also, this is where you're going to be exposed to my bad foundation paper piecing habits. I don't cut out my pieces ahead of time. I just, whether even if it's a big piece or if it's a little scrap, I just kind of hold it up and go, is that going to fit? And then I go from there and cut it afterwards. Because if I can skip a step, I will. So there. So this is my first piece. So it's going wrong sides to wrong sides. I'm going to sew on this line. So I need to see it. And then the right side is going to be there. So the first thing I need to do is check if I can see through my paper. That's the first test to find, because what I want is for there to be roughly a 1/4 inch seam over the line. So I'm just guessing for this first piece. After that, I'll kind of measure it. But anyway, so that's looks all right to me. So then I'm going to put it back down over here. And then just for the first piece, I generally put a dab of glue because it just makes it easier to then add the second one. Okay, so there's one there. This is my second piece. Oops, slipping. See, that's why I need the glue. Right, so let's just put that there again. Right, so there's my first piece. And then I've got my second piece, and I've got to find the right side. There's the right side. And for this one, the strip one, I need to make sure that it's going to cover the corner, but I don't want to use too much of it either. So that's okay. I'm just flipping to check because once I've sewn them together, I'm going to flip them open, right? So if you've done foundation paper piecing before, you know what this is about. Anyway, okay. So then, right, let's move you over. Then I'm going to go to the machine. So I've got my fabrics right sides together underneath the paper with my 1/4 inch seam. I've got a new needle in. It's a top stitching needle because I just use those a lot, but I don't think it really matters. I'm sure I've used other needles for this. And but I have the thing that I do think matters, at least for using it on printer paper, is I drop my stitch length to 1.5. And that's just so that I can rip out the paper easier at the end. Okay, so I'm just going to sew along the line. Cool. So that's our first 2 pieces. So what I like to do next is press at this point. Oh, got that. Yeah, I like to press, and then I'll just trim some of this excess away. I'm not going to necessarily trim it all the way up to the 1/4 inch seam at this point, just to get it out of my way because it is 2 big pieces of fabric at this point. So, can we see the pressing mat? Hang on. So, and I already know that I can press fine with the printer paper and nothing happens to it. So that test is passed for this one already. So all I'm gonna do now is just remove the bulk of this fabric. This is why obviously you would probably really cut out your pieces ahead of time, but I'm just getting this out my way for now. And then for this one, what I'm going to do is fold the line. And then find my 1/4 inch seam, and that's where I'm going to trim. It's just a rough hack, right? I'm gonna trim all this excess off at the end, but it's easier for me to work with this way. Okay, so I'm gonna skip bits of actually sewing all the blocks because this isn't like a tutorial on this strip block. But I do want to show you some of the sewing and cutting and stuff with each paper, because I think that shows you kind of how the paper handles, but I'm not going to show you every single step for every single block. So if it looks like it's jumping around a bit, that's what's happening. So there is the one with printer paper. We are going to do the tear out test later. So I'm just going to attach this so I don't forget which one it is. Next up is the vellum paper. So that we're going to use it exactly the same way as the last one, but obviously we know, I think you can tell here, we can definitely see through this. So go ahead and do this bit. This way. Okay. Oh, maybe. Yay! Look. I'm just going to use that a little bit. That makes it easier. Okay. I'm going to press that. Okay. So there's a one. Now, this one, I don't even need to hold it over the light to see it. I can see it right here. So this is a plus. Hang on. Shifting my camera. There we go. Yeah, so this one I can see right on the cutting mat. I don't even need to hold it up to a light like I do with the printer paper. So that's a definite plus. Okay. And then I'm gonna still do my dab of glue. See the glue as well. Anyway, right. So I can see that really well. Just gonna move it over to make sure that I can flip it. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So then I can I don't even have to pick that one up and shimmy, I don't think. I think this one I can just slide right over here. Cool. Okay, then we're going to do the press test. Yeah, see, I think I remember this from before. I did use this one before. Hang on. So this is something I remember from when I did try this. I tried this paper before. I haven't tried them all before, but I have tried vellum paper before and freezer paper. But this is what happens when you press it. It starts curling. It's not the end of the world. I mean, you can still work with it, but I think I found that slightly annoying. Right. So I'm gonna do my fold on the line. But, yeah. See that? So, yeah. I mean, I suppose I could glue it again at that point. That might help. I don't know. But, and all these things are going to be what's the thing that annoys you more. Because I do really like being able to see through it so easily. So that's good. Okay. And you could also finger press in between, but I really like to press with the iron in between. So this business is a little annoying for me. But anyway, okay. So there's that. I'm just gonna put, I don't know, put my roller down, hold it there for a minute. Right. And then I've got this one. Just lining up my 1/4-inch seam, flipping it over, and taking it over here. So again, I can still see through this to do what I need to. So that's pretty easy. I don't have to like lift it up to see, you know, if the fabric goes over far enough. Okay, so I think that's mostly what I wanted to show you with the vellum paper. So I'm going to move on to the freezer paper, and you'll see all of the finished blocks at the end anyway. So the freezer paper one, I have used this before, and you do it a bit differently. So we're not using glue on this because the freezer paper will stick. The shiny side of the freezer paper is gonna let your piece of fabric stick to it. So basically, instead of glue or anything else, what I'm gonna do is line this up, same way we were doing it before, but then I'm gonna take it over here to the pressing mat, and I'm just gonna press it in place. And that's fine, that's enough, right? And then I can line up, then I can line up my second piece. Now, first of all, can I see through it? Yes, but I need to hold it up, I think. I can't really see it when it's flat down on there, okay? So I can see it there, can you see it? Yeah. So I'm just gonna line up my second piece here. And then, so far this is the same, right? Then we're gonna flip it over. And instead of sewing on the line with the freezer paper, we are gonna fold it at this point. This is a bit fiddly on the 1/4-inch. See if I've got it, yeah, close enough, okay. And then we're gonna sew right beside it instead of on it, okay. So let's see, okay. Then I'm going to go immediately over to the pressing mat again. Let me hold that. Can you see there? Yeah. And open it up. This is the bit I find kind of fiddly with this. Right, okay. And then press that piece down onto the freezer paper. Sorry, the angle's not great on the camera, but hopefully you get the idea. Okay. Alright, so those two are kind of stuck to the freezer paper. They're not super well stuck, so they start to come off on you there, especially when you're using great big pieces of fabric. So, right. So then I'm going to trim some of this away because it is getting annoying, right? So yeah, so they start to come, this is the problem, it's not attached to anything here, right? So it can start to come away on you while you're still working on it. So we'll get that out of the way. Right. And then I'm just gonna shimmy this around. See, I feel like I have to be way more careful with this because, yeah, it's just whoop, slipped off. So now I need to find where that was. There. Okay. And I know I'm not supposed to, don't tell anybody I've done this, okay? I know I'm not, not supposed to iron on my cutting mat, but I just feel like I can't get any further here until I just do this. Right, I only did it for a second. Nobody saw that. Don't do that all the time. I swear. Okay. Right. I really don't do that all the time. That's probably the first time I've actually done it, because I think what happened before was, yeah, I tried the freezer paper thing and I felt like I kept missing my line, but I'll probably talk about that later. But so there I am with my 1/4 inch seam. Just cut that away. Get rid of this. Okay. And now I can line up my next piece, which was this one. I mean, I guess there's nothing stopping you from sewing right on the freezer paper, and you just use the ironing thing as the way to glue and keep it in place. I guess that would be another idea, but I think the general plus of the freezer paper is supposed to be that you could reuse this. You don't have to tear it away, and you can reuse the freezer paper templates every 5 or 6 times before they start getting a bit non-sticky. Okay, so this one I still need to check underneath and everything. Right, okay. Oh, I was about to just sew it out on the line. Okay, sorry, fold that over. Got it, okay. Right. Sorry, the lighting's not great over by the pressing mat, but anyway. Right, so now I feel like I have to hold this in place. Maybe my freezer paper is not good. I don't know. Does yours stick in between steps? Let me know. I'm going to leave it on for a little bit longer, see if that makes any difference. Take a sip of my coffee. It has been a hot minute since I've used freezer paper, but I don't know, man. Okay. Last piece. All right. So there's the freezer paper. Okay. Onwards and upwards. So here's the June Tailor. This one's supposed to be good for tearing away, apparently. And you can also leave it in, apparently, so you don't have to tear it away. And it does, and I think it also says on the packaging you can use it kind of as an embroidery stabilizer. It feels like a thin embroidery staple, but maybe I have a thick one, maybe. But anyway, that's what it kind of feels like, yeah. So, okay, first piece. Now, so I can see through it right on the cutting mat, so that's pretty good. I like that. Right, and I'm gonna go ahead and use my glue anyways. I don't know whether you're meant to or not with this, but why change a habit? Right, turn it over. Right. So everything is getting in the way here, but anyway. So I'm just gonna put this here and line it up here. So, and again, just with the light of the sewing machine, I don't know if you can see that, but I can see that I've got both my pieces of fabric there, so I don't need to peek underneath and do all that business. Okay. All right, now let's see what happens when you press it. Okay. Let's see. So far, it's curling a little bit. Probably not as much as the vellum, but definitely curling. Skipping ahead a bit here just to basically the next time I said anything about the paper. I don't think it's curling as badly as the vellum. There we are. June Tailor. Cool. Last one, Patchwork Palace. It's this, yeah. Now that almost looks like it's got a sticky on the back. Let me just check the instructions and see if I'm supposed to use this like freezer paper or what. Hang on. No, not sticky. It's just meant to be like stabilizer, kind of that sort of a feel. Okay, fine. Right. Oh, we probably would have had enough fabric to do it all with this orange, but oh well. Okay, just cut into, made big hacks in lots of fabric now. Okay, so I can't see through it here on the cutting mat like that, but if I hold it up, yep, I can see through it. Can you? Yep, hopefully you can. That's not big enough, so I'm gonna find another, I'm gonna do it this way. All right, there we go. So you can see through it, but you can't do it right there. But of course, if you had a light box or something, that would help with that. Okay. So obviously for this one, I had to peek underneath to see whether or not my fabric was in the right place for my 1/4 inch seam because I couldn't see through it. Okay. I did press this one off camera, but obviously this video is getting a bit long, so I'm cutting a bit more out now. Okay, so it is, again, curling a tiny bit. Not as bad as the vellum, but still curling. Right. Okay. And there is the Patchwork Palace paper. Right, next step. How do they tear away? So here I am with all my samples. I'm gonna take the paper off. Normally, I wouldn't do that until I would stitch them all together, for example, and then have whatever stitched around, and then I'd take the paper out. But this is a experiment, so I'm just gonna take the paper out now and see how easy or not easy it is. So I'm gonna start with this one, because I know this one's gonna be easy. So this is the freezer paper. This is the main selling point of using this. Also that you can reuse it, right? Is all you do is take it off. That's it, right? And it's still fine and you could reuse it. So that's probably gonna be the easiest one to take off for sure. I'm just gonna put that aside and I'm gonna put this label back on here so I remember which one it was. Okay. Next, I'll just go with this one, Patchwork Palace. So all of these, I had a 1.5 inch stitch length, so I wouldn't have thought it would be difficult to remove very many of them, but just tear it off. And the reason for the low stitch length is just it makes more holes in the paper, so it's easy to tear it off. It's a perforation thing. So there we go. So put that over there. What have I got here? I've got the vellum paper here. Okay, so that's that one that was kind of see-through and curling a bit. So not too difficult, not that much different to the other one. The curling, I guess, made it a little bit more difficult to get at a bit of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because I'm already biased against this curling paper. But anyway, that's the vellum. All right, June Tailor. So now here's the thing with this one. This one, it says you don't have to take it out. You could leave it in. I don't know. Just has anybody left it in a quilt and then washed the quilt? What happened? I would like to know. Please leave me a comment if you've used it. So it says you don't have to take it out. So I could just leave it. But I'm going to try taking it out because I normally take out my papers. So, yeah, okay. Now that's probably just my sewing or me not locking it the right thing, but that's popped there a little bit, just a tiny bit. I'm not sure that's the paper's fault, but anyway. Okay, so that was relatively easy to take out as well. Can't really complain. And lastly, the printer paper. Easy as well, not much different. So I know some people, this is why they don't like foundation paper piecing, is removing the paper. So that was why I wanted to show that. But yeah, I don't think there's much in it in terms of that test. I think they're pretty similar. Obviously the freezer paper one is going to win that because it's just, you don't have to do anything. But other than that, I really didn't see much difference between the other four. So yep. Obviously you can experiment yourself, but let's just have a look at the blocks now and see if they look any different. Okay, so these are meant to be 6-inch finished blocks, so they should be 6.5 unfinished. So I've got them on my mat here. This is the Patchwork Palace one. I'm not doing it in any particular order here. 6.5, 6.5, so that looks about right to me. Just have a look at it. Looks okay. Yep. Pretty much what I'd expect. Printer paper. Same, 6.5. Yep, so that's fine. Don't see a discernible difference. That's a bit wrinklier, but that'll be my pressing. So, okay, freezer paper. This is the one I wasn't sure. Was it going to come out an odd measurement because I wasn't right on the lines, you know, but that's still 6.5. So, yep. June Tailor. Pretty much the same. 6.5. Yep, 6.5. So that tests a wash as well. So not much in it as far as those. So next, I think what I need to talk about is the price. Okay, so pricing. So the cheapest one, I'm looking at an envelope here. That's why I'm looking down. So the cheapest one is the printer paper. At 1p a sheet. I'm going to be talking British money because I live in the UK. But I think like the relative pricing, I would imagine is the same in other countries. So if you can get all these things, I imagine you're not going to have one that's wildly more expensive or cheaper. It just might be a different price where you are, right? So, okay. So the cheapest one was the printer paper at 1p a sheet. Then the next two cheapest was the newsprint and the tracing paper, which were 4p a sheet. Now, I didn't get those through my printer, so, so the cost doesn't matter to me, but anyway, they were cheap enough. Then the the vellum, sorry, I got that out of order. The vellum then was 8p a sheet. So that's the one that was kind of curly. Then the freezer paper And you can, I mean, you can buy all different kinds of freezer paper and you could probably find this cheaper. But anyway, mine was 10p a sheet, but it's reusable. So that makes it cheaper. So maybe it should have been earlier, right? I've never been able to reuse it 10 times when I have done it, because I have used, that's probably the one I've used the most, like second to the printer paper. I've maybe reused it 5 or 6 times before it started not quite sticking, or it just didn't, it was like curling or whatever. Like it wasn't, it was no longer really usable after about 5 or 6 tries for me. But again, different freezer paper might behave differently. Okay, and then the Patchwork Palace stuff. I actually bought mine from somebody else who was like getting rid of their own, you know, they bought it and they not used it on eBay. So it was cheaper for me. It was 7p a sheet for me. But if you buy it new here, it's 13p a sheet, and it looks different. The cover of it, when I looked it up just to see what the price is now, it's not the same packaging as what I have, but I'm pretty sure it's the same stuff and the same company. So I think whoever sold it to me had it for a while. Anyway, so 13p is probably more realistic. And then the most expensive one is the June Tailor stuff. It comes in a pack of 25, and based on what I paid for it, that made it 41p per sheet. So yeah, so that's the most expensive one. So final thoughts. What am I going to be using now? I think I'm going to stick with the printer paper. It's the cheapest. I can't see through it, but I've been kind of, you know, going on with that for now. And it's, you know, before now, and it's been fine. If I was going to switch to one, I think the other one I liked the best after that was the Patchwork Palace stuff. It was maybe just that little bit thinner than the printer paper. But it was still sturdy enough, you know, as a foundation. So maybe, like, I'll use it all. Everything I have, I'll use for something. I might not use it all for foundation paper piecing. There's loads of other things I can do with the freezer paper, for example. Freezer paper I really wanted to like, because it's reusable. But for me, just how not precise I am, like, I use FPP to be my easy way of sewing precisely, right? So the freezer paper for me was just a bit like, it wasn't always sticking, or I have to be more careful about where I fold it. And so I feel like there's more room for error for me personally with the freezer paper. Now, there might be different types of freezer paper. There might be different ways of ironing it. Maybe my technique for that's not great. But like, if I have to look up 7 tips for how to use this tool, because that's what any of these papers are, they're tools, right? If I have to use up 7, like look up 7 different tips for how to use it to make it work for me, then it's not a useful tool for me. That's too much work. I don't want that. So it's just not easy. It's not intuitive for me. So the freezer paper is not my preferred method, but like loads of people swear by it. So I would encourage you to try it yourself, because you might love it. The other ones, the Vellum does my head in. Like, I wanted to like it because you can see through it so well, but it just curls. It's just not, I just find it really fiddly to work with. It doesn't help me, right? If you finger press, you don't put heat on it, maybe it won't curl. Maybe that's what it's for. But I like to press in between. So I'm not going to use that one. Obviously the 2 that I couldn't get through the printer, I'm not going to use. And again, with those, I bet you there are people who have found out a hack, like maybe they've taped it onto another piece of paper and put it in the printer or something. But if I have to add a step to make it work, no. So I'm not doing that. I'm just looking at my list of the other ones in front of me. That's why I keep looking down. The June Tailor one, it felt nice to work with. It was, but yeah, it's expensive. And I guess I would like to know. So if anybody has used that one, if they leave it in, like with a whole quilt, like, I suppose the main benefit would be that you didn't need to take it out, I guess. But I don't know whether that makes your quilt a bit crinkly or what. I don't know. So yeah, but even if it's perfect when you don't take it out, it's still way more expensive. So I'm not sure it would turn my head enough. So yeah. What I am going to try, I think, so I'm very easily swayed into trying things, as maybe you can tell. And I watched, another YouTuber's channel, and she had this cool light box thing. And she was, I'm not sure exactly what she was using it for because she was just talking about it. She wasn't showing it. But anyway, and I found one secondhand on eBay, as I do. So that has arrived. I didn't try it for this one, but I will, once I have tried it, I will show you and whatever. So that might be my solution. Maybe I use the cheap paper with the light box or something. I don't know. But that said, I don't think you need a light box. I've been using the printer paper before and it worked fine. So sorry if you have watched through the whole thing looking for the magic paper and it's printer paper. Anyway, so yeah, so it feels like a bit of a waste of an experiment because I'm just going to end up using the same stuff I was using before, but I guess now I know the grass isn't greener. So yeah, now of course you might have different criteria for your foundation paper piecing, and so you might love another one that I didn't take to for different reasons. So I hope that having seen all the different papers that I used, you maybe know better which 2 or 3 you want to buy and experiment with for yourself and sort of judge against your own criteria, and you don't end up buying 7 like me and just ending up with the one you were using to start with. I'm also going to link below to Sugary Dew. So that's another YouTube channel I really like watching, and she did a video quite a while back about, she does a lot of foundation paper piecing, about her favorite papers, and she had one that I couldn't find here, and I don't know if you can print on it on a printer or not because I just couldn't really buy it. It was like a tea bag paper, and I think she really swears by that, but yeah, I couldn't find it. So I will put the link to her video in the description if you want to kind of keep watching and keep researching before you buy whatever you're going to try. So I hope you like this video. Hopefully it was a little bit useful. Don't know. Let me know what you use for foundation paper piecing, and if you do use the Jean Tailor stuff, do let me know if you keep it in or not and how that goes. And yeah, so if you do like videos like this and you're not already subscribed, please do hit the bell for notifications, and do leave me a comment. Let me know what you thought. Thanks so much for spending time with me, and I hope to see you again. Bye.